What is shaking, you guys? Welcome back to the Let's Go Win podcast. We are in for an absolute treat today. We have a gentleman that is going to bring so much value to you, and I'm excited for you. But before we get to him, I just got to remind you, please share, subscribe, get this out there, because the gentleman you're going to hear is going to help us a ton, and we want more and more people to get that value. And who are we talking about? That's Dr. Vic Manzo. He is a business and spiritual mindset coach, certified pediatric chiropractor, holistic coach, 3 times author, and a podcaster that focuses on mindfulness, appreciation, and getting himself centered. All things I love, brother. So, Dr. Vic, how you doing, man?
I'm doing absolutely amazing, brother. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you. So, I guess I'll start with a chiropractor that is an author, that's a podcaster. Of course, that leads right into being centered and all this. No, there's obviously a holistic approach to a chiropractor. What led you down this path, man? I'm curious.
Yeah, I never had intentions on becoming a chiropractor. It was one of the things that, we in chiropractic, we always say, chiropractic finds you. You don't find chiropractic for the most part, and that's very true in a lot of ways. I started I was in health, and it was a model thing, right? So what was health? Health is, when I was young, I saw my mom, she's a fitness instructor. So it was working out, it's eating right, taking supplements, juicing, all those things. I got to witness that every day. So by the age of 13, I'm like, I want to improve my health. So started that journey for 6 years, teaching myself nutrition and all this stuff at 16 and whatnot. But then at 19, I went away to school, and all of a sudden every month my health just started to decline, and it was weird. I'm like, I'm eating right. I'm playing rugby for Arizona State on their club team. So my whole level of conditioning went through the roof, where I'm running 5-minute mile, never been able to do that. And all these other things. And yet my health just kept declining. And I was like, there's something wrong. I was freaking out. Long story short, before I almost went to the medical doctor, my mom's like, hey, why don't you go see Dr. Frank? He was a chiropractor. She's been seeing him since I was 1 year old. And I saw him for a little bit when I was a kid. And so I said, you know what? Why not? If he can help me, let's do it. And it changed my life. Didn't only help me with my symptoms. I got in the best shape of my life 4 months later. And at that point, when I was back at Arizona State, I was like, you know what? Forget computers. I'm going to go into business, go back home, graduate. I'm originally from Chicago. And after that, I'm going to go to chiropractic school. And that was my initial journey into chiropractic.
Well, that's wild, because I'm imagining this badass rugby guy running 5-minute miles, and yet he's feeling like dog shit. And my question is, what was happening in the body that this chiropractor was able to really, I guess, untangle? Or I'm so curious to see what was happening, man, because you're in great shape. I'm sure you look like a Greek god, but yet you weren't feeling good. So what was going on?
Yeah, it was crazy. It all started, I had allergies, which I never had allergies before. And they're like, well, when you move to Arizona, that kind of happens for a little bit, the dust. And so you're getting used to it. So I was like, okay, that the runny eyes, the runny nose every morning, that never stopped. Like, it just, for the next 9 months, it didn't stop that. But then all of a sudden I started to notice, I can go to sleep no matter how many hours of sleep I get. I was always waking up tired, like just exhausted, like not like tired, like, oh yeah, here we go, I gotta get up with my day. No, I go to bed, like I can go to bed at 12, 1 o'clock at night, get up at 10 because I have my classes later in the day, and I'm exhausted. And no matter how I shifted that. So that was a concern. And then it started to get a little more worrisome, because then I started to get sensitivity to light. So as soon as I walk outside, I can't even see, like it's blinding, and I would get a headache. I had digestive issues, which were, I just felt bloated all the time. And it wasn't like a normal, just a slight bloatness. No, I was like, as soon as I ate, I was bloated, and it just stayed that way all day. And it was very frustrating. I'm like, what am I doing? That's adding this on. But then I always had dark circles under the eyes. And then I started to get canker sores in my mouth. Like every 7 to 10 days, I had a new one. Acne showed up on my back. I had all this, it was just weird stuff starting to come up. And I was just like, this is just too much kind of things happening. I couldn't open my mouth as wide as I could anymore. So I didn't realize I was having TMJ issues. Some people said that led to the headaches. I never get headaches, but now all of a sudden I'm getting headaches. So it's kind of freaking out where I can't even put 2 fingers in my mouth to open it up. And if I try, it would just cause pain, and so forth. So it was really nothing like what you think of going to a chiropractor: neck pain, back pain, the headaches, yes, but not the others. And it just got to a point where, I wasn't in the greatest shape of my life. Like, it didn't make sense. I was running and my conditioning was so great. I was lifting weights that were double my weight and all this other stuff like I've never done before. But at the same token, my health just did not show for it. Like, I was a big guy, but I wasn't shredded like I thought I should be. And that was the big ticker, was just like, this, none of this is making sense. I'm even workouts, like I get sore and it would last like 3-4 days. And it wasn't like, sometimes the workout wasn't that intense. So I always had like muscle aches. And it was just, when you start to think of all this stuff lining up, we didn't have, Google was around, but it wasn't as intense as it is now. If I did that back then, I probably thought I had cancer and all these other things that I've been freaking out about. But it was those kind of things just leading up to where I was like, something's got to give, something, I don't know. It's got to be a blood. It's just too many systems involved. Even like a little jaundice I even had going on from my just liver, just not being overwhelmed. And then I go to the chiropractor and sit down, does x-rays, scans, all this. I come back, find out I have scoliosis. He tells me I can't. This is the same doctor that told me I couldn't play organized football. Told my mom, can't do it. Don't let him do it. And then all of a sudden now I love rugby. I'm playing the first time ever, and I'm connected. These guys are like brothers to me. And then he's telling me you can't play rugby anymore. And I was like, he goes, I don't even know how your spine didn't snap. I had scoliosis. But he was like, we'll be able to get you rid of your symptoms in 2 months. And I was going to go back to school. He's like, find a chiropractor, continue going, and you're going to need it for the rest of your life. And that's where I was like, done deal. And that was what's fascinating. In 4 months, my diet didn't change. My exercise programs didn't change. Nothing changed. The only thing that changed was chiropractic. And I went down to 10% body fat. And I had an 8-pack and everything else. And I was like, how the heck is this happening? You understand? I didn't understand chiropractic. I was like, this guy's going to do what to my neck and my body, and you're going to tell me it's going to take care of these things? That seems so foreign. But I trusted the process. He's been going to my mom for my mom's been going to him for a very long time. So I knew that I just trusted it. And it was one of those things where once that happened, I remember I came back home in December, and my mom was like, you have like gotten shredded. What have you been doing? And I'm like, I gotta say it's chiropractic. I don't know what else it is. This is crazy. And that's where, made that shift. But yeah, it was crazy stuff, especially the sores, canker sores in the mouth every 7 to 10 days. That kind of freaked me out, because on Google it did say that's like cancer. And I was like, I better not have, no, I don't have this. No, I'm freaking out. And, could I have it, this and that? And so, yeah, a little wild and crazy there.
Well, I have so many questions, because I'm not kidding you. Like, I moved to Florida and my skin has been a nightmare. It just has. It's been this constant thing. So is it as simple as, and I don't mean to make it simple in terms of, I know there's a lot that goes into chiropractor, but getting adjusted, getting the body realigned, what did this gentleman do to literally get you on back to living your best life and getting shredded and feeling good, for the love of God?
Health is really a simple journey. We just overcomplicated it. And I think sometimes there's an agenda to making it more complex, but it's just your body's designed to heal. Right. So that's the premise number one. In nature does not need help. It just doesn't need interference. That's just the law of nature. Nature will always take care of itself. Well, the body is part of nature. And even genetically, we know the body wants to be healthy. We just got to get rid of the interference that's not allowing it to thrive and give it that opportunity to do that. Once it does, it's going to take care of itself. Now, I'm not saying chiropractic's the end all be all. Trust me, I'm not saying that at all. I think my experience went so well and I healed so quickly and I responded so fast was because I've been eating right. I wouldn't say I eat right now. I wouldn't, if I judge where I'm at now compared back then, I wasn't the cleanest diet, but exercise and fitness regimens and taking supplements and all that stuff, I've been doing that since I was like 15 years old. I mean, I've been working out since I was 13. So I've already been doing some of those things, but yet, so those stressors weren't going to hold me down as much. But from the adjusting side, I was a mess. And it's one of the things where if you give the body the chance to adapt, I mean, then all of a sudden it will thrive. I mean, you live your life through your nervous system. Everything goes through your nervous system. How you perceive the environment has to go to your nervous system to get to the brain. And then your brain has to, whatever information comes, it has to respond and give commands to the body, tell the genes what proteins to be created so that it can adapt to one's environment. If that nervous system is not communicating properly, you cannot override this. You're not going to be able to, you can't force it into some degree. You correct it and then you can get back to it. But if you don't, it's just going to slowly over time break down. It takes a while. So when someone has like an issue like myself, that was 19 years of accumulating to get me to that point. Right. And I knew it wasn't going to take 19 years to heal. That's the beautiful thing about the body. That's why I say when it can heal, it heals. It'll once you give it what it needs, it's going to start rebalancing things out and doing what it has to do. And that was kind of the journey. But even like the beginning in the best shape of my life, I was always like, I understand it now why, but it was back then I was like, it floored my mind, but on how that whole process came about. But again, it's getting things to function better, heal better, repair better, utilize nutrition better. I wasn't absorbing nutrition correctly. So, I mean, I won't get too personal, but let's just say I was explaining my bowel movements and he goes, you got yeast, you got candida, and he's like, you also have, you're not assimilating nutrition properly. And he's like, we got to get that digestive system working better. And that took a long process for me to get there, but yeah, I'll leave it there.
Well, it is, again, that you said holistic. This is what you do. You're a holistic coach. So you said, I'm not advocating necessarily just chiropractic, but diet, exercise, supplements. You haven't said meditation, but for me, like meditation is a huge part of for me being centered. And so I'm just so interested because you're not alone. When you read David Goggins, when he wrote his book, he felt like he was dying because his psoas muscle was so tied up. And once he released that, it was like the world opened up. So I'm sitting here as a listener and as myself saying, hey, there's something to realigning the body, making sure it's, in order. So I think there's a ton to this, brother. I could ask you questions for hours on this alone. Yeah. So if you're sitting here listening and this gentleman has written all these books and I'm thinking, what is the first step to really living your best life, to getting recentered the way you do? What do you coach on, Vic, to make sure that people can really find that being centered?
Yeah, there's two parts to that, because if we're looking from a health perspective, I'll have an answer there. When we go from a mindset's perspective, I have an answer there, but I can even blend the two. When you look at your life, we understand from health and from just, from a coaching aspect of, when I say coaching, I mean that from a mindset perspective with entrepreneurs that I do too. It's one of the things that your beliefs dictate a lot of things. And when I say dictate a lot of things, I don't just mean that in the context of whatever you believe is what your reality is going to be in your experience in life, which is 100% true. But your beliefs also is what is your perception. So how you see something, what it becomes. So how you believe what the world is, or what you believe something to be, your DNA is actually going to respond to that. And that can cause you to be healthy, or that can cause you to have disease. And the more you believe in, like for an example, if you believe there's a hostile universe or a friendly universe, those two individuals, let's say one believes hostile, one believes friendly, I guarantee 5-10 years down the road, it could be even shorter, could be a little longer, but you're going to see vastly two different outcomes, not only from a health perspective, but from a mindset perspective, let's say they're both entrepreneurs. You're going to see the one entrepreneur thriving, the other one not as well. That's how powerful our beliefs are when it comes to that. That whole process, it dictates our life in many different ways, not only from a business side or creating our dream life, but also from a health side also.
Well, and this is what's funny is I'll have people say, well, wait a minute, that's not scientific. I'm like, really? We're energy. We are literally energy, right? So whatever you're putting out energy wise, that's what's going to get reciprocated back to you. So if you're putting negative shit out, negative stuff's coming back your way. I mean, that's a pretty simplistic way to explain it, but there's a lot of truth in that, right, Vic?
Oh yeah, I mean, look at quantum physics. I love bringing science to the table. So you look at quantum physics, and they did a study called the observer effect, and it basically, long story short, they were trying to understand if light is a wave format or is a particle. Now, for people who don't know what the difference of that is, wave is an invisible form that we can't see with our eyes, but yet that's non-physical. It is also infinite possibilities. In other words, when we look at particle, that's a manifestation into the physical realms. So that's what we can see. That's when you can see a light on and things like that. What blew the quantum physicists' minds is they thought it was an error, because they thought it was going to be, when they were looking, the sensors were picking up and it turned into a particle. When they looked away, it turned back to wave. And they're like, maybe we messed something up. Let's redo this. And they did this a good bunch of different times, and it kept doing the same thing. And they said, wait a minute, consciousness can actually manipulate or change energy in some way, shape, or form. What we see or what we're looking for, what it becomes. And that's just not one principle from quantum physics, even neuroscience. We're reprogramming our life by a part of our brain called the reticular activating system. I love how people are starting to talk about it now. It's a part of the brain on it's in your midbrain. And basically there's a lot of functions that this does. For all the neuro people out there, I know it does way more than just what I'm about to mention, but from a premise of life, it is a massive filter, and it filters out all the things you deem not valuable, right? So if I truly believe in something, okay, whatever that may be, I have value to that. So then all of a sudden my world's going to see that and create that. Quantum physics, how I see something in my realm is what it's going to become. What you put out is what's going to come back. Laws of cause and effect. And when you look at these different factors, now we start to this kind of work. This is what I love this stuff here, because this is what I do a lot in my coaching on for entrepreneurs, is that when we get into that stuff, this is where we get into returning our power back. Because once you understand just what I just shared here, I know it sounds very simple, and I try to keep things as simple as possible because we've complexed a lot of things. But when you can just grasp that and really just hone in on that, you start to step into a whole aspect to understand that you can never blame anybody else but yourself, because everything happens as you are, not to you or through you. It's as you are, where you are at, how you see the world, and so much more.
Yeah, man. And you started off saying it so much. It starts with mindset, right? Like everything begins with mindset. And Henry Ford, back in the late 1800s, whether you think you can or can't, you're right. One of my favorite quotes, I think it's so brilliant and profoundly simple, yet spot on. And brother, that's what I love about what you're talking about. It's like, look, you said it, like, you get to choose what you're bringing into your world. You get that choice. You're not a victim. You literally are the one that chose this. And I think that's hard for people to understand, or say, no, this happened to me. No, it didn't. This happened for you, but everything in life. So, but tell me more about mindset, brother. What do you do to really, on a daily basis, be able to show up in the healthiest, most positive mindset that you can? Because you're coaching these guys, you've written 3 books. I mean, your mindset's pretty darn sharp, brother. So how do you go about it on a daily basis?
How long do we have? Just I'm kidding. On a daily basis, I have a practice I'm very disciplined about. So every morning I get up, and one of the things I will do is I do some breath work and I do meditation. I've been meditating for over 15 years. It's been a game changer for me. But I like doing some breath work. Sometimes I do heavy duty breath work, some of the popular names like Wim Hof or Soma breath or holotropic. But sometimes I just do deep breaths while I'm getting into my meditative state. Just depending where I'm at. If I wake up, sometimes my mind's not as clear as I like it to be. I'm going to go a little bit deeper into my breath work so that I can get better reset. So when I go into my meditation, it helps keep me nice and focused. Once I come out of that, I do a gratitude practice for my day. It's all about energy and vibe, and getting my vibes to where I need it to be, right? So gratitude is the easiest way to really elevate your vibration, or elevate your mood, your emotions, to get to those higher levels so that you can start your day on a higher vibration. This is critical because everything is vibration at the end of the day. Like we said, everything's energy. And so I want to make sure I am at as best as I can be at that point. And then depending on my day, for most days, after I do that, I always have 40-degree water sitting in a plunge for me, ready to go jump in. And I do that just to sharpen my mind. It's more of a mental thing. It's my bliss state, which is, people sound that to be very weird, like 40-degree water. And they're like, how can you say that's blissful? And I'm like, listen, once I get past that first 10, 15 seconds, it is really blissful because I have to be present. I can't feel my body in the cold coming in. I have to literally focus and sharpen. And I like doing it after my breath work and meditation because my focus is already strong. So when I go there, I can strengthen it even more. And then from that process, I'll get out and I'll work out and challenge myself to get myself ready for the day. And those are the things I do. And then at night, I always go back to my gratitude and sharing appreciation for what I had for the day. No matter if it's good or bad, everything's good in life. So that's the in the work I do and all the work I've been doing, there's never a loss, there's never a failure, there's nothing bad, because again, like you're sharing, these things are working for you, not to you or whatever it may be. Everything in life is always there for us. And so what am I appreciative for when I'm centered for? And that's usually the basics of what I do on a consistent basis.
No, it's a beautiful routine. And my listeners, it's not the first time they've heard something similar as he's drinking his healthy water, alkalizing the body. I love this guy. This guy's awesome. But let me ask you, because how long does that process take you? And I ask this very specifically because one of the things I've had to do in my own coaching is to say, look, this is what works for me. I realize that maybe we tailor it and make it a little shorter for those that aren't necessarily wanting to commit a couple hours every single day. So what's your thoughts there, Vic?
It's 1 hour. Simple as that. Breath work takes, if I do a Wim Hof session, 8 to 10 minutes. And then, so if I do like a full Wim Hof session or a full holotropic, they're very similar. It's about 10 minutes, 11 minutes. Then I'll just meditate for about 10 to 15. If I'm just going to do the deep breathing while I'm in a meditation, then I'll meditate for about 25 minutes in total. Gratitude practice is a couple minutes. It's not long. I plunge only for 3 to 5 minutes. And then my workouts are roughly about 30 minutes, give or take, 25-ish, 30. And I don't work out every single day. So it's only 4 days a week. My body will not, my energy levels, I'll feel a dip, and I have a lot of technology I use for health. So it'll show me after a couple of days of 2 days in a row of working out, I start to see that I didn't recover or my body's been a little bit more taxed, and it'll show up. And I'm like, all right, next day I'm just going to do the cold plunge, no workout. Then maybe I'll do my breath work and meditation a little longer, because I give myself 1 hour to nail that. So if I'm up at 5 a.m, I don't get started till probably about 5:15. I'm done by 6:15, and I'm already cranking out working by 6:30. So
that's pretty reasonable, brother. I gotta say, I just have to ask you because I'm so into biohacking. I just think it's fantastic. What some of the tools, what are you using, man, to really check in? Are you doing Whoop? Are you doing some other stuff with your nerve? I'm curious because I am obsessed with this stuff. So many of my listeners. So what are you working on, man? Because it's fascinating.
There's a lot that I do on that level. So I have an Aura ring, which I use for monitoring. The only thing I really care about that is my sleep and HRV. I don't pay attention to any other stuff there. But I have a chili pad, which monitors my temperatures at night. So I can, especially the beautiful thing about a chili pad or just anything, because there's other ones, I think there's like an 8 mattress and some other things. The beautiful thing about that is, though, if I when I work out on days I work out, I try to make my temperatures even colder at night than what I normally do. So that way I can stimulate more restorative sleep, which helps my body heal. When I had a very good mental taxing day, then I want to make sure my deep sleep's good, but then I'll make sure I have a little warmer half of my night so that the REM can kick up more so my brain can recover faster. So that's the beautiful thing, how I can kind of add. I don't do that often, but I do it depending on what's showing up. So I use that to hack my sleep in a way so I can, kind of do that. I do supplements to even go deeper into my sleep. Like I may take GABA, or I'll do, 25 milligrams of CBD with some passion flower and the chamomile tea. So that way I'm calming this nervous system down so that when I sleep. And it's fascinating. I was reading research just a little bit ago, and they're like, yeah, people at an adult age should get about 20-25% of their sleep should be REM and deep. And I'm going, good, I'm ahead of the curve. I average 50% almost. So I'm like, I'm definitely hacking my sleep really, really well. And I've been doing that since 2010. So I track that. I do the chili pad. I'm trying to think of other stuff. There's fat stuff I do, brain optimization, nootropics. I get into a ton of that stuff. For those who know who Trophics is, it's a way to optimize the brain, how it processes neurogenesis, developing more nerve brain tissue, and a mood too on top of that. But it varies from time to time. I used to do a lot of the butter coffee even before it was popular. Back when I was in chiropractic school, we were like high fat, high fat, high fat. So we're all like, let's put butter in our coffee. It's got good fats. And then the caffeine and then the vasoconstriction from the caffeine is going to stimulate more and get into the brain a little easier possibly. And then all of a sudden years later, Dave Asprey comes out and all these other people. And it's like, man, we were ahead of our time with this stuff. We were doing keto before keto was even popular. But then I realized, I found out through my own testing, DNA wise, that my body absorbs 48% more fat than normal. So I have to be careful on how much fat I intake. And so, but doing that, but I'll still do, I use probably a C8 MCT oil if I need to, and I'll blend that into either a coffee, which I don't do with caffeine, but or a matcha or something along those lines, just so I can get some of those good fats in me. But yeah, the nootropics is another thing I use, probably 2 to 3 times a week, just depending on what my day is like. If I have like a good 3-4 hour segment of like I got to do a lot of creative work or just a lot of mental activity work, and I need to be on my A game with that, it's always great to take a little bit of that, and it just gets me on my A game, and I'm cranking out.
Yeah, man, you can see how deep you can go, man. It's amazing how fast you rattled that stuff off. I want to talk about the nervous system because I think you said earlier, like everything is surrounded. I mean, it literally is that. I was just, before we actually did this podcast, it's fascinating this comes up. I was reminded by reading an article on rebounding, like using the little mini trampolines. Is that a practice that you do, brother? And if not, no big deal. I'm just curious your thoughts on it, because I'm about to go to Amazon at some point today and get my mini rebounder because I've forgotten about it.
So I used to do it in my office for neurological purposes, but yes, I have one. I use them. I just became a dad 3 months ago, and once in a while, my wife bounced on a ball when she was pregnant so much that's the only way we can soothe her. That's what she's used to. We've conditioned her already. She's into the world immediately, that when she wants to sleep, she has to be bounced. That's what she likes. And so I was like, you know what? I go, bouncing's okay. It's bad for my spine. So I'm like, you know what I'm going to do? We have a rebounder. So I'm just going to hop on that, and they can do the exact same thing. And I'm still getting all the lymphatic drainage that, the importance that comes with that. And it's great in a lot of ways, because your brain now, instead of doing just motions like this, you are going vertical. You're adding another axis to it. So now we're vertical, and your brain has to pick up on that with everything else. And it's a good just 5-minute like wake up in the morning, 5 minutes, do a rebounder. Solid. It's going to give you that energy and that like little zest, because you're moving fluids through, and more you can move things around, the better it is for your health and well-being. And it's good for mental aspects and so much more. So big fan of the rebounder.
There's a subject on here and it says leveraging what life brings to you. I'm just curious. I'm going to throw that out there and just say, all right, Vic, go, man. Cause that's a big subject. And I'm so curious to get your thoughts on leveraging what life brings to you.
Yeah. Again, you remember we shared this a little bit already. It's like everything happens for you, right?
Nope.
So if we can take a step back and just come from a neutral place when something happens, let's say something bad, right? Nothing's bad in life, by the way. I'll state that first. Life has no meaning. The only meaning life has is what we put on it. That's how powerful we are. I already shared it through the quantum physics stuff. I already shared it through the RAS stuff, or reticular activating system. Heck, there's a ton of spiritual and ancient wisdom if you want to go down that path. Religions even talk about it. Many different scriptures, Bible and Hindu and all this stuff. And it's one of the things where if we can just, when something happens, if we have a reaction, there's a lesson that we need to learn from this. Usually it's something limiting belief. Maybe it's in our subconscious mind. It's the universe, whatever you want to call it, is trying to have us become aware of something that's what we want to continue to move towards. And when we can sit with that, I call it sitting in the darkness. When you can sit in that, man, there is immense wisdom that comes from that. Just look at your own life, right? You look back at the rearview mirror, look at the things that were troublesome, and you got through them. And what did you learn from that? And when you really look at the immense wisdom, but when you're leveraging life, you're learning You're paying attention to what matters to you, what you need to learn at this moment, what needs to have you level up in your life. And that's the beauty of leveraging life, because a lot of times we're always seeking outside ourselves of what we need to do rather than sit back and let life show you what you need. And this is a different way of thinking for many people, especially in business. Because in business, we're always like, no, what's the next step I have to do? What's the next thing I have to do here? What do I have to go to this level? And it's like, that's force energy. And that's Western civilization, that it's been doctrined for thousands of years. This is in our subconscious. This is programmed in us, not only in the mind, but also in our genetics. But at the same token, taking a step back and letting life show you what you have to work on. It took me years to get to that point. And when I did, I learned in 1 year what I was studying for the last 5. It's just fascinating. And the more we do that, the more life is going to give you what you need, and you're going to get deep wisdom and really evolve, and you're going to transform just like a caterpillar does to a butterfly when you really get into that process.
I hear you. Like, legitimately, I hear what you just said, but I struggled, and maybe it's the conditioning, because again, letting life kind of come to you. No, man, I got to go get it. I got to go grab that thing. And my wife is actually the one that'll check me and be like, hey, just let it happen. Like, you're forcing something. It's not going to work. You're at odds with what the universe is, kind of what we talk about, universe and energy. How do we get better at that, man? How do you really just say, chill, brother? Like, I meditate, I journal, I do everything you can, and yet I can't help myself. So any thoughts on just figuring out ways to, and I take this back to being centered. I mean, to be able to be calm and to be at peace and to let things happen. There's a flow to the universe. So how do you do it, man?
It's not as easy as it sounds, because we all been conditioned. Even me, I teach this stuff, and there's still times I'll get caught up in it. And my wife she knows my verbiage very well, and she'll know, like, hey, you're in a force mode. And I'd be like, you're right. Dang it. Okay. Let me recenter. And it's because one of the things is you have to understand, again, going back to the quantum realm, getting back to quantum physics and all this other stuff, is everything's energy. Well, when you understand that wherever you're vibrating at, you're going to attract into your life, right? So let's say you want to become a millionaire, you want 7 figures, 8 figures, 10 figures, whatever that is. And yet your vibration, if it's aligned to that, your bank account may not show that, but the people, situations, circumstances are going to come to you to do it. It's law. This is how law of attraction works and all these other things. It's trusting the process. We've heard this quote so many times: let go, let God, right? It's trusting and knowing that this is all going to work out the way. And if you look at your life, when you try to force things, you're going to get there if you force it, but there's a cost to that. I know that for my own life. First 5 years of my business in my chiropractic office, I was all about sweat equity, grind, hustle, you name it, all that fun stuff. And after a certain point, I was like, I understand these principles. Why am I not using them? So I was like, you know what? I need to start to let go. And that is the hardest work. It's still hard for me today. I'm a type A driver personality. So that my natural default mode of my brain is go out, work, and grind. That's just my, I was embedded with that at a young age. At 6 years old, my dad taught me, it was pushing me to do physical work with him to help him. And, I just saw the hard work. I seen it all around. So it's a natural, and most people have this. It's a conditioning in the human psyche, but it's trusting to let go and really getting into that space. And to me, the only way it worked for me was knowing that was truth, that in the quantum world, everything's attracted, nothing's there. And I had it, but you have to play with your mind, because your mind's going to go in the past and say, look what we've done. You've had this happen to you. Something comes out of nowhere and it benefits you in some way, shape, or form. It could be a relationship, could be your health, could be a business deal, could be money, whatever that is. You've had it happen. So it does work. I mean, I laugh at myself now when I'll sit there and something will come out of nowhere, and I'm just like, that's just so cool. And I'll just sit back, be grateful for it, and just go, I just had to focus on my vibe. Just got to stay focused on the vibe. And it's something I still have to tell myself every single day, because I'm human. Again, my default mode is that, just like everybody else. But I've learned to catch it, and then I just reset. And the moment where I can't settle and I feel like I have to do something, let's take some advice from someone who talked 2,500 years ago, Lao Tzu, the founder of Taoism. And he says in the Tao Te Ching, verse 4, if you feel like you have to do force, then don't. Sit back, do non-force, relax. And that is such a deep principle about the law of vibration, because you only get success from things where you're vibrating at. So if you're feeling like you have to force energy and do something, guess what? You're going to be coming from a lower vibration, which is going to make it harder to achieve. So it's sometimes we just have to see these things and break this conditioning. Sometimes you're like, I'm making a change, but the brain's like, hey, we're going to keep showing you old stuff of what you need to do. And eventually you'll get to that point. But I think the biggest key thing for me that helped me was just paying attention to my perspective and knowing that, no, this is the quantum world. This is how it works. I have to trust that. And no matter how uncomfortable that is, that I know it's going to work out for that way, because that's how things work. All I have to do is focus on me. And, like one of my buddies said, when he got into this whole spiritual stuff and doing these kind of things, he's like, man, the most intense thing ever was spirituality. He's like, that stuff is intense. He goes, I've done the business stuff. I've done all these other things. He goes, that spiritual stuff that you talk about, he's like, that's hard, man. I don't know how you sit with that. I'm like, I didn't say I got it down path either. I struggle, but I've learned like meditation. I've learned breath work. I have different tools that I can use to help me sit in that space more and handle, even when I want to do something, just say, stay here, just stay here. This is where I need to be. And just trust it's all going to work out the way it needs to.
It is fascinating, because if you really want to manifest something, and I mean, you want something in your world, and not to go and get it, but rather speak it into existence, right? Say it aloud, feel it. It will come. It may not come on your timeline, but it will come. What are you manifesting right now, brother? I'm just curious what's happening in your world.
I have a big one that I'm starting to really put out there more. Is I have a vision. I've had this for a while, but now I feel like this, again, it's a calling, right? When I talk about effortless stuff, it's pulling me now. And I'm like, okay, I got to put energy in this. Consciousness School, help change the minds of millions of people to understand who we really are, rediscover who or just remember who we really are. It's a purpose of my life. And it's one of those things that I don't know how it's going to all come together, but I know it will. I know I feel like it, that's one of these things we always try to figure out the how. All you have to do is just, I've said it, right? It's like sent it out to the universe. And now I'm like, every day I'm going to show up and I'm just going to do what I have to do, focus on my vibe, and just make sure I stay my vibe to be center as possible and high as possible. And all that's going to come together. It's all going to work out. The ideas will come. People I'm going to meet are going to come. All this stuff's going to happen. And I'm not going to have to really think anything about it. That's the true power of manifesting.
It's so amazing. If your why is strong enough, the how doesn't matter, man. We never know the how, right? Just you gotta be clear on what that vision is. So what'd you say? Conscious School?
Online consciousness school. It's helping people really underrate how to raise their consciousness levels and understand more of the depths of who they really are.
It's becoming more accepted in the Western world, which I think is really important. B, we need guides, man. We need so many guides, including those of us that are well practiced, still need that stuff. I'm going to give you open forum here, brother, because I don't know what I don't know. What don't I know enough to ask you that you're like, Jam, you should have known to ask this one, but I just didn't. I want to give you that open forum to just let the audience know what's happening.
Such a great avenue there. I mean, we talked about some really good stuff here. And the whole aspect, but I'll break this down. How do we manifest? How can we make things easier, in that realm, right? And the thing about, unfortunately, COVID did a lot of good things in some ways for people getting out, uncertainty, how to rediscover, determine what their values are. That's what I mean by good things. But a lot of people got in the coaching space with it, and they're watering down things. So you'll see people that are like, mindset coaches. Now mindset's a watered down word. That's not what we used to be, or law of attraction now, or manifestation coaches. And it's like, they water these things down, and I'm not bashing any of them. Please don't take it that way. But it's one of those things where we've made even manifesting complex. And so how do we manifest in our lives? How do we make it simple, easy? You've already lived this part of your life. So you just may have forgot how to live in this part of your life. And that is, go back to being a 3-4-year-old kid. Simple as that. There is nothing else to manifestation and creating your dream life except the 3-4-year-old kid. Now, why do I say that? Because if you look at a 3 or 4-year-old kid at that year, around that time frame, they're at their peak of imagination. That's the first thing. The second is, they don't care what other people think. They just do what they love. They follow it. They're just starting to learn how to express what they enjoy and what they like to do. They don't have logic mind yet. So that doesn't come in until age 7. So all of a sudden we have doing what you love that truly brings joy, not because of anything else. It's just being in the moment of joy. But at the same token, using imagination to create your world of whatever that is and create and be that. Now, I say that because when you look at, I studied a lot of billionaires, and guess what? What do they do at least 15 minutes a day, 20 minutes a day? Is they tap into their imagination and they just let it go. And they don't try to think or what their old path, they just let it go. Google's done this where I think one of the breaks they allow their employees for 20, 30 minutes, they can work on a passion project of theirs and just have fun with it. And so with your life, you have to, if you really want to create fulfillment, and I mean, fulfillment to me is choosing what I desire to have that brings a high vibration of joy, of emotions, joy, bliss, calm, peace, and experience that. That's what fulfillment means to me. And when you can get back to that stage of a 3-4-year-old, now people are hearing this like, okay, great. Well, what's the steps I can get there? You already know how to do this. Like, that's the thing. I don't get me wrong. I have ways of sharing. Like when I work with clients, there's ways I get you to that state. But the thing is, to keep it simple, you know how to. You felt joy. You felt bliss before. You felt these things. You know what it feels like. Pay attention to where it shows up. And that's where you want to come from every single day. That's how you want to start your day every single day. The reason why I do breath work and meditation before I get into a state of gratitude is because I want to go deeply into that state of gratitude. I want to be able to go deep into that high vibration of emotions. Because when I can come from a place of joy and bliss, now my day is going to be set. No matter what comes and happens, I'm coming from a joy of bliss. I'm seeing myself into the future, and I'm acting like that now. I'm not acting where I'm at now. I'm acting on what I see myself in that future. When I said I don't have an online consciousness school, every day I act, what is it? Who do I have to be that person that creates something like that, to experience that? What's the feelings I want to have with that? How do I have to think now? How would that person think now if I can imagine that in my head? This is where imagination comes in. If you want to be a millionaire, what does a millionaire look like to you? Not the way you've been conditioned of what a millionaire looks like. That's a huge, just to make that just difference between the two. But what does a millionaire look like, and how do you want to be that millionaire? And seeing what that is and then bring it into your world today. That's what, again, 3-4-year-olds tap into imagination. If you've been there before, you just got to go back and remember what that's all about.
This is, I swear, kindred souls, man, because literally I was on a podcast today at 9:00 and I was talking about the 5-year-old self. Almost a similar answer, brother. And that's my hope for all of my clients is like, look, that 5-year-old or 4-year-old or 3-year-old, they didn't know any different, man. The world hadn't kicked them in the face yet. They thought anything was possible and they knew they could. It's still in there, brother. I love that. What an answer. Vic, where can people connect with you online? They want to know more about what you're doing. They want to be centered like you are and all the knowledge that you have, brother. So where's the best place to connect with you?
My website's my hub. It's empoweryourreality.com. I have a bunch of freebie stuff on there, like the power free ebook on the power visualization. I share a couple studies that'll be mind blowing, especially as myself being a doctor. It's kind of crazy on how visualization and what it can do. And then if you want to connect with me on social media, on the bottom left of my website, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn. So check out, I do a bunch of videos. And then also, if you have any questions, love to hear from you.
Brother, you crushed it today. I mean, this is I love this stuff. So I think you're bringing a ton to the world and your clients, and we need more of you, man. So great job. Keep up the amazing work. And thank you for being here today.
No, it was my pleasure, brother. Thanks for having me.
You guys, I mean, how good is that? Who doesn't want to be happier? Who doesn't want to manifest what they want? Who doesn't want to dance like that 3 or 4-year-old man who didn't give a shit what the world said? They just enjoyed, and there was possibility. That's what you got to hear with Vic, and I loved every moment of it. Go check him out for sure. Share this, get this out to the world, because more people need to hear it. And remember, until next time, your mindset matters. I appreciate y'all, and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you so much for listening. If this content is delivering value to you, please make sure to subscribe, rate, and review us. That helps us build this community, and that is what we are all about. Building this community as big as we can, helping as many people as we can, and deliver as much value as possible. Be sure to head over to letsgowinpodcast.com for information on my coaching courses, and make sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn at Let's Go Win 365. Let's go win and transcend in life.
This is the Let's Go Win podcast with your host, J.M. Ryerson.